All right, so thank you everybody for joining today. I'm going to go into our full screen mode here. Here we go. All right, so to kick things off, this is an online clinic for people who are interested in specifically applying to the Bitter Jester Music Festival this year and in the future. But we've also sort of tailored this to festival applications in general. So this will consist of quite a bit of helpful information as you go through your professional careers applying to other music venues and other music festivals. A lot of this is going to be specific to us. I've done this enough that there's a lot of really good, beefy general information and sort of best practices to help you as you go through your career applying to other festivals. And everything that you are going to see is going to be shared with you after the fact. So we will email you this packet.
You just heard from Nick DeGrazia. He's our founder of the music festival. My name is Michael Saitlin. I'm the director of education. I handle a lot of all the judges' commentary. I handle a lot of what we're advertising when we judge bands. I do help a lot with the application committee. Kevin Razor, our director for our music, he'll give you a lot of feedback on how to stand out in the music sense of our application for today. And then he handles a lot of stuff on stage and on site, a lot of the tech, a lot of the amps, a lot of the setup, a lot of our background recording stuff. Christy and Mitch are also here as part of the Bitter Jester Music Festival team. They're handling a lot of the questions in the comments and handling out of the Q&A. They have a lot of answers for questions, and they're kind of moderating the chat today.
Yeah, also Carol's joining us today too. So Carol's on our
Good to see
design
you.
team and helping with marketing and stuff like that. Former competitor, and she's attending so she can re-educate herself on the application process so she can help bands in the future. As far as what this clinic is going to cover, we will be talking about what is the Bitter Jester Music Festival very quickly and who is eligible to apply. We will go over important dates for this year and then general best application practices for both Bitter Jester and other festivals. How we judge our applications, which is separate from how we judge the competition portion of the concerts. This is what we're looking for in your application to make it into the festival and who is doing that. We'll share some numbers about the acceptance rate. We'll go into a deep dive on the application itself. So this will probably be the most lengthy portion where I will fill out the application and we will talk about each step of the way and kind of head off potential questions and problems that people may have and just show you all what the application looks like before you have to dig in yourself. And then as part of that, we will talk about how to stand out, the best music to submit, example bios and statements, next steps after you apply and after this clinic. And then we'll share our contact information with you and we'll leave time at the end to do an open Q&A. But as Michael said, if you have questions, put them into the chat and Christy and or Mitch will try to field as many of those as we can. If they're simple, we'll answer them in the chat. And if not, save them for the end and we'll go over that stuff. So Michael, over to you.
What is the Bitter Jester Music Festival? This is, in theory, as simple as we can make it, a competitive battle of the bands that gives you so much more than that. It's a nonprofit, started 20 years ago, 19 seasons worth of material. Thank you, COVID. It's hosted and sponsored by the city of Highland Park, North Shore suburbs of Chicago. We have plenty of great sponsors, but the entire purpose of the event is to give young and up and coming bands going to be the next big thing, opportunities to play on stage for professional judges, get feedback from those judges to continue to push themselves to be better, and an outlet for them to collaborate with one another, make connections with each other, and then eventually use those resources to help push their careers farther. We're super excited and honored for how far it's come and how many people are interested in this event. It gets crazier and crazier every year with the amount of applications that come in.
Yeah, and our application process essentially is in a few different parts. It's written questions, it's uploads, which include music, photos, your logo if you have it. We also are asking for a link to live music this year, which we'll talk more about. And then there's an application fee. The fee is used to help us just really maintain the application portal, the website. There's a lot of administrative stuff. all of us are volunteers, and we do this because we love it. Most of us were musicians. A lot of my team is former competitors. Carol, Michael, Kevin, a lot of other people that you'll see at the festival themselves. There are people who were in your shoes back when we had to have paper applications and people were mailing us checks, which was fun. So it has evolved quite a bit, and the infrastructure behind that is costly. We're a nonprofit, the concerts are free, and it is really important to us that we stay dedicated to maintaining a free concert environment for people. And this is one of the ways that we're able to do it. So, in terms of who is eligible to apply, if you're in a band, at least half of the band must be consisting of members who are 21 or younger. So that means, and this is at the time you submit your application. So if you are a four-piece band and you have three 21-year-olds and a 22-year-old, you're eligible. If you have three 22-year-olds and a 21-year-old, you would not be eligible. No performers can be over 24 again, at the time of the application. So if you've got a birthday tomorrow that would cause your whole band to become ineligible, get your application in today. All genres of music are accepted. We literally, I mean, I don't think there's been ever a situation where we've rejected a band because of the kind of music that they play. It's whether or not you are good at executing that music. So we've had hip hop, we've had rap, we've had ska and punk, and we've had solo musicians, and most of the bands are, 4 and 5 piece rock bands, but we had an a cappella group. We've had a 14-person barefoot wash tub band one year. So it really runs the gamut. And that is part of what makes it really fun to attend the concerts. It makes it very challenging for us to judge you competitively and fairly, and we'll talk about that as well. But it just is a really wholesome kind of variety act sort of a night. So basically, any size band from solo performers to mega bands and beyond.
So it kind of hinted at the idea of the really great things that Bitter Jester offers, mostly the ability to get feedback from professionals and the ability to collaborate with people at the event. But also, we get really nerdy in our data, and you get to see the different nuances that make your band really successful and the things that you can really push your band to push even farther. There's a lot of bonus content that comes whether you win events or you're just participating in the events, including the things that are on the screen, a lot of multi-track recordings and audio mixes and social media press. A lot of that stuff is really invaluable along with photos and more information how to improve and the amount of people that help in, and not to mention cash prizes, networking. We have a lot of connections with other venues that we set up where they come out to us. Ravinia does that. Navy Pier does that. We have satellite performance is where those locations come to us asking for bands, and we get those bands opportunities to play on those stages. Nick, keep telling us about some of these if I've missed anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to the networking and connections. One of the things that is especially interesting for me to see is as we have grown and as we have inevitably had to turn away more and more applicants, the bands that don't make it come out to the show. And because we are still a pretty intimate event, you have access to those performers. This is not a mega festival where there's tens of thousands of people in the audience and you'd have to fight your way to the stage and you'd never be allowed backstage. We have boundaries between the performance area and the audience, but when a band is done playing, they go out into the crowd and they're jamming for everybody else. So even if you apply and you don't get in, and we'll stress this a few times throughout this presentation, if you're local or if you're going to be in Chicago or if you're planning a tour and keeping, your June dates open in the hopes of getting into Bitter Jester, but you're going to be here anyway, regardless, I really encourage you to come out to the shows, meet us, talk to the other bands. So many touring opportunities come from, oh man, that's a band from Indiana. We've never played in Indiana. We could open for them. And then you make those connections. We are very good about helping that to happen. And the same is true with our judges. Our judges are not like a basketball coach and a city council member and a dad. It is professional musicians, music educators, touring musicians, studio musicians, audio engineers, radio hosts, podcast hosts, people who are on television, super, well-known musicians, and people who are just quietly making really good music on their own, but they know what they're talking about and they're all incredibly well connected. And you also, not while they're working, but at the end of the concert or during a break, you have access to those people too. You can go up and introduce yourselves. And that is really something that surprisingly is pretty special about our event. And then the last thing is, Kevin, would you talk really quickly about the Live at Bitter Jester album, how we make it and why that's a cool thing?
Yeah, so we've been doing a vinyl record for a couple of years now. We take all of the performers at the finale concert, which we'll talk about the structure of how this works a little bit later. But if you make it to that finale round, whether as a competitor or as a showcase act, then you'll have the opportunity to be on this final album. So each band chooses one song from their set that has the best performance, and then we get a group of mixers together, many of whom are former competitors or people who are going to school working on mixing as like a possible career path. And they will mix all the songs to put them on the album, which is super cool. And then it gets pressed to vinyl. We have really cool art for that. It's just like a really cool culminating album for the year, pretty much.
Yeah, and the source material for the album is the multi-track recording. So if you don't know, a multi-track recording means every microphone is getting a dedicated track being run into the board, which allows us to do a professional, albeit live concert mix at the end of this process. But we have multi-track recordings of every single concert. We tend to press the vinyl with mostly stuff from our finale and then a few things sprinkled throughout because there's always maybe a technical issue or something like that, or people, a band's just like, I preferred the way I sounded at the prelim. But we have all those multi-tracks and we don't hold those hostage and we don't charge for them. So if you are performing in our festival, if you're a solo performer, if you're a showcase, if you're a competition band, all you have to do is ask and you will get those multi-tracks. And that is a huge expense that is saved. And then Kevin and some of our other mixers have really great rates to, if you want to hire them to do the mixes, you can also do your own mix, send it to us for feedback, or just do your own mix. And last year we had two bands that released full live albums, concert albums, 20, 30-minute long albums of their entire Bitter Jester set because they loved how they sounded with our sound system with the multi-tracks, which is just so cool. So if you go on Spotify, you can find some live at Bitter Jester concert albums, which is pretty cool. Michael's just going to give you a quick highlight of some important dates. We'll breeze through this and then we will move on.
You'll get this slideshow and the slide deck, but things that you just have to be aware of is that we have two application deadlines. One's early, and if you want a discounted rate versus the final application deadline, March 1st and April 15th. We do our best to get the lineup by May 10th. Sometimes we are a few days early, sometimes we are a few days late. But that May 10th is our deadline, just trying to be transparent with you all there. Our opening concert is June 6th and June 7th this year. So that's separate events for two separate sets of bands. Then June 13th and June 14th. We'll announce wildcards, which is bands that did not win their preliminary round but are still invited to attend the finale as competitors. And then June 28th is our grand finale concert. And then we have more events that are after.
And then we do have a partnership with a local Marriott. I went over there actually and signed the contract, and they were like, oh, the bands are going to love the fire pit. He was very excited about that. And then two dates to keep track of as you apply. You will have the ability to tell us your availability. So you do not have to play every single preliminary round if you make it into the competition. You give us your schedule. We build the scheduling of the competition based on availability, not based on style of music. But if you get into the festival, at least one person, and it could be a parent, it could be someone you trust, but there has to be representation at our May 17th virtual all band orientation meeting. That is a critical meeting, both for you to show us that you're serious about attending this festival, and especially for us to give you a lot of information that we don't have time to share the night of. The second date is June 28th. If you're in competition, we ask that you hold that date as open because you might make it to the finale. And again, as Michael said, even if you don't win your preliminary round as a competitor, you could get selected as a wild card, and you will find out about that just, a week and a half before the finale. So holding that date open is pretty critical. Okay, moving on to best practices for festival applications in general. My biggest note, having done this, I've been doing competitive and just for fun sketch comedy for years and years. I've traveled all over the country and up in Canada performing sketch comedy at festivals that were just presentations, festivals that were competitions. One of the biggest things that you can do to help yourself when it comes time to expressing your desire to attend an event is researching the event or the festival you're applying to and absorbing as much information as you can. And at a minimum, avoiding the pitfalls of talking about things that are just not accurate or presenting information that is just not a good fit for the festival because you didn't do your homework. And it's very easy to do, just Google it. Another thing you can do is do your homework on who's participated and who's competed in the past and reach out to them. The best piece of feedback you can get about what is my experience going to be in this unknown festival that's asking for money for an application, why should I bother, is not to ask the festival, but ask someone who won it, ask someone who lost it, ask people who just performed or who are familiar with it, what was your experience? And I can tell you, I am highly confident that you'll get very honest but very positive reviews from a lot of people about our event. And the same should be true about other, reputable festivals that you're applying to. I would also say don't be discouraged if you don't think you'll fit. And this is mostly a commentary on musical style. Let the festival be the judge. Don't go in and defeat yourself by not applying because you don't think they're going to like you. Give it your best shot. And we also will provide you with feedback on your application if you request it. Communicate with the festival. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. It doesn't hurt. It is a great way to get your name out there. And when you do, I would recommend that you say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from the band ABC." You never know who you're talking to. Like, I run our social media account, other people run our social media account, but we're all part of the team and we all talk to each other. So regardless of who may be communicating with you in that moment, it's just another good way to get your name out there. And when the festival staff remembers your name and then your name pops up on an application, that's only going to be a positive thing unless that was some sort of, nasty confrontational type of conversation. But if you're just inquisitive and asking questions and showing interest, it's just a positive way to make a mark for yourself before you even get your application reviewed. I would say also, with regard to asking good questions, try to find the answers first. There are a lot of questions that we get asked constantly, and it's just a helpful thing for any festival to just see if they have an FAQ. Again, ask other people, go online, go on their website, asking, when's your application deadline? I mean, I'm happy to answer that question, but I shouldn't have to because that information is publicly available. And also, if you're asking questions that are very obviously available, it implies to us that you may not be a detail-focused person, which then has implications on your performance as well. Always poke around in an application prior to actually starting it. This is mostly just a time-saving thing. Know what you're getting into. Our application is beefy, as you will see. And if you started and kind of like take some notes, when you actually have time to sit down and finish it, it will be much easier. And you won't run into that frustrating situation of, oh, I didn't know they were going to ask me this, and now I got to gather this information, or I have to write a bio, or where's that photo that we just took? You'll have all that stuff available to you. I harp on this all the time. And again, this is speaking from personal experience. Save your work in a separate document as you go. I cannot stress that enough. It's best to complete our application on a computer as opposed to your phone. You can do it on a phone. It's just a little bit more fiddly. And this is just a security blanket because computers crash, phones crash. It's a tech website, like something could fail, and there's nothing more debilitating. I have filled out applications and gotten 99% of the way through, and I've lost everything, and I want to bang my head against the wall. The other thing is that it is a really great way to have a starting point for next year's application. Our application does change a little bit from year to year, but not so much that you can't copy and paste a lot of things and at least have a starting point. It's like writing a college essay or something. Having a good starting point just saves you time. And save that, in a folder. Know that your social media, obviously, as individuals and as a band, is in the public domain, and there's always a chance that reviewers will see it. So just ask yourselves, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And applying the first time is literally establishing a relationship with the festival. Not everybody who applies gets in. A lot of people apply and don't get in and reapply. And if they've shown growth and improvement, not only is that recognizable to the festival, but again, it's that name recognition thing, establishing that relationship, which is part of the puzzle. And then lastly, if you do not receive confirmation from the organization you're applying to, from colleges to art festivals to any kind of festival or event, ask them. Be like, hey, I submitted, but I didn't get a confirmation. I just want to make sure you got my information. I just got an application the other day, and the person was like, oh, we applied last year and didn't get in. And I was like, I don't recognize this name. And I looked, and I don't know what happened, but the application just didn't get sent. and they didn't get a confirmation email. So that's a shame because they might have gotten in last year. Okay, in terms of how our applications are judged, Michael, why don't you take this one?
We have 4 categories that we really look into that define how technically proficient and ready your band is to be as a participant and competitor here. That's going to be groove and foundation, which is how you play as an ensemble and as a band. Are you tight rhythmically in the pocket? Are you aligned musically? Musicianship, which is based on you as an individual and how your role in the ensemble is, how you play virtuosically, solo lines, etc. Vocals and tone quality. So how well are we singing in tune, harmonies? You could be the best singer in the world, but if you have the Michael Saitlin background singers, you're going to get last place, right? So it's all a combined idea. But if I were singing in your band and you had Freddie Mercury there, that would still take points off. And then originality and creativity is something that goes into it, which is how well you write your music. Is it boring to listen to? Is it interesting? Does it set you apart? Or if you're playing covers of songs, are you putting your own twist on that? And we give you credit for all those interesting things that we do. Now, all of those categories are being judged by industry and music professionals, are being judged by our education team that listens to it. And basically from there, those are the things that are getting into a score of, are you going to be in the festival? That along the idea of also how well are you answering the questions in our application.
One thing that's new this year too is because of the number, just the sheer volume of applications that we've been receiving the last few years, we are adding another layer to this process. So the pre-screening is basically we're going to have multiple people listening to every song, and they will give it an initial rank of like 1 to 5. And it's not against the other random artists. It's literally on your own merits. Are you a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And then we're going to be able to then focus our time on the top, 60%. Now we will spot check everything. And we're still making the commitment to our applicants that every single submitted song is going to get listened to from start to finish by multiple people. We just need an assist because it is just weeks and weeks and weeks of time. So we need to kind of winnow it down a little bit. But that will still be music professionals, musicians, and people who know what they're talking about. And then I and Michael and Kevin and others are going to listen to every song just to make sure that they're not totally off base. I'll pull up the other bullets, Michael, but if you want to talk too about like just the difference between the 2 submitted tracks and the live links, why we need those.
The things that are important to note is we are comfortable listening to 2 uploaded tracks. Preferably they're not 15, 20 minutes long each. Do we even have a time limit on them, Nick?
I mean, we sort of have an internal rule, like we don't really listen past 5 minutes. We just don't have time. And we get hundreds and hundreds of songs submitted. So, like the average song is between 2 and 4 minutes. Like we'll give you 5 minutes, we'll give you 6 if it's a great song, but we got to move on. People have submitted 7-minute songs. We're not going to listen to it. And my suggestion there would be if you've got a 7-minute, jam track, just put some notes in your application to say, hey, like we realize your time is valuable and you're probably not going to listen to this whole thing, but we really want you to listen to the end, or we really want you to listen to this moment. And then we'll give the first part of the song due diligence, and then we will read your notes and listen to the parts you want to identify. But don't make us listen to 8-minute tracks because it's just it doesn't end well.
So those are we're very comfortable with those being produced, Spotify ready, production ready. But we are adding this year live tracks. This doesn't have to be super produced live tracks. In fact, it shouldn't be. This could be off of an iPhone recording of a practice session or mom's recording from the back of the auditorium of your performance, just to see that A, your singer does sound like that. B, your band does play this well in time and it's not Beat Detective lining everything up for you, and so on and so forth. So that's why we are adding a live track this year. We've had bands in the past who sound phenomenal as singers and then they show up live and they're not great and they're taking away opportunities from bands that probably would have gotten in if we knew that it was severely auto-tuned or if it was just inconsistent throughout. So the live track is going to help us make sure that the best bands get in. And again, just to reiterate, it doesn't have to be super high production. We don't care about the production quality. We care about alignment. We care about making sure it is what you sound like.
Which isn't to say you shouldn't submit, good studio tracks. You totally can. The way I look at it is we're not going to sit there and watch your live tracks. It's just a way to spot check, to kind of give the festival an insurance policy that we're bringing bands that presented as good as they did. Yeah, the supporting materials are, this is like the answers to questions. It is important. It's not the most important. We do read it all and it does enter the conversation. It's usually, I will say, the thing that comes up when we've got a lot of great bands and we have to cut because we can literally only take 24 artists into the competition. 25 is going to be a showcase. Like, and so when you've got 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and they're all great, that's when we start to do a deeper dive into the written application and analyze things. And it's like spelling is important and passion is important and being honest and telling a story, telling a compelling story will make a difference. All things being equal, two great bands, and one of them just hasn't had opportunities. You got to give that band a proverbial extra point. Or there's just something eloquent or hilarious. Like you do you. It's totally up to you how you present that. And we'll go into the statements and questions later, but it will factor in. It's just not the main thing. And then aging out in seniority, we do, that's part of it. If there's a killer young band, they're going to beat an older band that's not as good. They just are. But again, all things being equal, we will factor in, hey, I mean, Kevin, right? This comes up all the time. We're like, this is their last year. And sometimes it's like, this is their first year applying and they wouldn't be eligible. We gotta like, that's always a really passionate discussion point.
Another thing that we put some emphasis on as well is if we've recognized that you applied in previous years and we see an improvement, that is also a big point in favor for your application.
Yeah, and we keep all of I mean, I've got applications going back decades, so we will refer to your music. And, if you're going to submit the same track, the same song, I would recommend from the previous year's application, I would recommend that it be an updated version. I mean, if you didn't get in with the songs you submitted last year, I wouldn't submit the exact recording of those songs, but pro tip, if you submit the same song but it sounds wickedly better, like that has been super impressive. And sometimes we don't remember until we go back and play that old track and we're like, damn, that they really got good. And then we'll go back and read our notes from the previous year, and if you've addressed some of the things that were the weaker points from the previous application, man, that goes so far. It really, really does. All right, moving on. Our new section this year.
So this is something that has been coming up more recently as bands get more sophisticated with their live shows, but we've been getting more and more backing tracks and bands that use backing tracks as part of their experience. So we just wanted to lay out some guidelines on how that affects the competition and how you should be using those. So using backing tracks is allowed for the competition, but we just want to make sure that we're still placing the emphasis on giving feedback for your live performing skills. And that's what the judges are looking for, is how are you performing live in the moment. So if you do have tracks, those should be complementing your live parts, but not replacing a musician that you don't have, or not basically overshadowing your live parts. So for bands, like if you want to have like sound design elements or soundscapes or like additional layers in your backing tracks, that is awesome. That's really cool use. I would shy away, however, from performing without one of your band members, but then replacing them with studio tracks. That's the kind of thing that gets into kind of a gray area. For solo performers, this is extra important this year. We want to see solo performers performing the majority of their track, especially the accompaniment. So if you're a soloist, you should not use a backing track for all of your accompaniment. You should be playing some sort of instrument or using a looping pedal or something in order to create the majority of your performance. We understand there's a little bit of wiggle room there in a lot of different situations. So if you're not sure where you fall on the spectrum, feel free to reach out to us and ask. But regardless, if you are in a situation where backing tracks is the only way to really perform for your group, then you could still potentially be invited to the festival, but it may be a situation where we would invite you as a non-competing showcase band rather than a competitor, just because we want to be able to give feedback on live performance.
The reason why we went this route this year is we just don't feel it's fair to judge a backing track heavy artist against people who are creating music live. And we are very committed to being able to confidently tell you that we've built a system that we think is really pretty solid and it's tested, where a solo country singer can go up against a death metal band and the outcome is legitimate. Now, you may not agree with the outcome, but you can agree that the process was fair. And the judges go into very detailed debates and conversations because our process pushes them to do that. And we haven't been able to apply a way to do that fairly where the judges can, factor in backing tracks yet, but we are working on it. All right. So as far as how many applicants are accepted to Bitter Jester, we will take 24 artists into the competition, which works out to be 6 competing artists per night on 4 independent preliminary rounds. So each round is a standalone with 6 different competition artists, different showcase artists, and different judges. This is part of the reason why we have those wild cards, because if the judges had been different, like if we put the night 4 judges on night 1, the outcome might be different. I'd like to think it wouldn't be wildly different, but it would probably be different. It could be. And so at the end of those 4 preliminary rounds, we go in and we pick wild cards, which are artists that are really, really good, who could have won their night and deserve a place at the finale. We then also take multiple non-competing artists. Those are the showcase artists and our featured solo performers. Now, these numbers are, there's some wiggle room, on these. It kind of changes year to year, but generally we're taking about 8 showcase artists, anywhere from 1 to 8 featured solo performers as well. And these are people who play in the middle of the show when the judges are doing their initial deliberation at the halfway point. These are artists that open the show. And, we are looking for very strong showcase bands. We want to kick the show off with some energy. And then in 2024, 51% of our applications were accepted into the festival proper, and 27% were accepted into the competition. So if numbers hold, and I think these percentages are actually going to go down because every year we get more and more applications, but you've got about a 50-50 shot of making it into the festival statistically, and about a 30% chance of making it into the competition. Again, those numbers will probably go down a little bit, but that's the baseline from last year. Okay, I am going to jump in to our website. So in order to apply to the festival, you go to the Bitter Jester Music Festival website. Up here under Music Festival, there's a link that says Apply to the 2025 Festival. You click on that. There's a countdown timer that tells you when the early application deadline is. This will be updated with the final application once this hits all zeros. And then the application starts right down here. You are going to enter your band name, and then I'll just do my email here, which is nick@bitterjester.org. I'm going to fill out my first name, my last name. I am from Illinois, and I'll just say I'm a manager, and it'll say another band told me. I'm going to fill out who that band was, and then this is just a way to share other bands that you know of that you think would be good to apply to our festival. We do, I think, a pretty good job of outreach to other bands, and this is just a great way to connect us with, if there's a band called Shoestring, I'm never going to be able to find them on Google because I'll just those kind of words are very difficult to to find. So if you can include social media in here, that's helpful. I will select yes, at least half of us are 21 or under. I'll do the code there, and then you hit continue. Now this takes you to the main part of the application. This just basically explains what you have in store for you. There's a link here to watch the last clinic. We'll update that one with this current one. There's some notes on the festival and some dates. This is just information for you to have. Again, I'm going to click nobody is over the age of 24, and then I'm going to retype my band name and my email address, which just links all that information together for us. And then I'm going to hit no thanks on the FAQ, although if you hit yes, this will take you to a link that will open up our FAQ. I hit no thanks, and then we go on to band information. Here is where I'm going to write a 50-word bio. This is where you're going to write a press bio that should be written in the third person, which is you saying, it's like someone else talking about your band. You don't say, I'm into this, I do this. You talk about your band, and this is what we will publish for the audience to read about you. Down here is where you write a short statement just telling us why you wish to participate in the festival. This is the number of years you've been performing together as a group. Notate here if you've applied to Bitter Jester before and what status that was. That just helps us to find you in our archives and understand how much effort you've been putting into this. Write some information here about other battles of the bands you've participated in, awards, just things to brag about yourself, fun facts and stories about your bands. Again, we read all this stuff. This doesn't really factor into you getting into the festival, but these are the kind of things that I'll use to introduce the bands when I MC the concerts. How you plan to promote the festival is just a good indication of what sort of involvement you will have to get the word out about the shows, because that's good for everybody. You will write your band Instagram name here. Spotify if you have it, any other social media that you have. If you have a website, hit yes, copy paste your URL. Does your band represent a secondary state? We collect this information just so that we kind of know where you're coming from, and also we have different methods of outreach to communities outside of just your hometown. If you're from various cities, you'll enter that when you get to the performer info. But here you can be like, yeah, if you all go to school in Alaska, you would just write that down, and then we might be able to reach out to the Juno Press and be like, hey, you've got a band that's in this really cool festival. You should promote that. Let us know if you have merch available. That's just so we know to be prepared with tables and things like that to assist. This section is the one that's probably going to take you the most time, depending on how many performers you have. In the interest of time here, I'm going to be a solo performer. So I would hit yes on one. I'm a solo performer, and then I'm going to fill this information out. This is dynamic, so if you select 7, you are going to be presented with the same thing 7 times. So for the purposes, again, of today, I'm a solo performer. Now, one note, and this is very important, be careful with doing what I just did. If you, let's say, make a mistake and you hit 5, but you're a 6-piece band and you goofed, and you fill this out, then you go back and you update it to 6. It's a fiddly interface, and sometimes it will delete 2 through 5, but not for you, only on the actual submission. It's kind of a pain. I don't know how to fix it. I've reached out to their tech support, and the only thing they can say is just be very deliberate about knowing how many people you have in your group, okay? That will save a lot of back and forth later. And this number can change. If you've got 4 people now and you need to add someone later, don't worry about it. Or if you lose a band member for whatever reason, or a vacation or something, just communicate with the festival and let them know. So for each person, you will need their first name, you will need their last name, their email, their age, phone number. For the performers, we do send out texts and stuff to people with reminders. You write your pronouns, select your t-shirt, and we do a good job of getting everybody a shirt for the festival at no cost. If you are from Canada or have a band member who is from Canada, until we can update our system, just select Alaska. There's a very low likelihood that we will have any performers from Alaska, so that way we'll know. I don't have the ability to do Canada right now, so just bear with us. Write down your home state, the instruments that you play. I'm going to play a lot of things. And then for other, this is going to be where you'd put like flute or harmonica or anything else, any other social media. And then we will need the same thing. We'll need contact information for an emergency contact. And this is primarily just because we're doing our due diligence. Also, a lot of our performers are younger, so we just want to have that information on hand in case anything should go wrong. So once you've filled that out for everybody, and this is an example of collect this data in advance because you may not necessarily know everybody's exact age or their t-shirt size. Try to have that information just to save you a little bit of time once you go into the application. You go on to scheduling. There's basically 2 options here. You're either available on all of the preliminary night concerts, and those are listed right up here, or you are not. It's certainly great if you are, because that makes our job scheduling, and scheduling is a nightmarish puzzle of 40 different artists and their unique availability. The more availability you can give us, the better. I also know that it's very early and you may not know exactly what your schedules are. So you may be free right now on all the nights, but that could change. Just give us some notes down here. Hey, we don't know our complete schedule. And then when you do, I implore you to please reach out to us and just allow us to update that information. But let's pretend that you are not available on all the dates. You then will give us your first choice date, which let's just pretend is June 6th, and your second choice date is June 13th. After that, it's going to ask you to select all the dates that you are not available. If you're definitely not available on June 7th and June 14th, check these boxes. And there's a note here too. If you're only available on a single day, just put that date into both of these fields. So it would be June 6th is my first choice and it's my second choice. And that just means if you get into the festival, that's the day you're playing. Okay. On to uploads. This is where you are going to give us two music tracks and you should submit your best work. It could be studio, it could be live. This should be what you feel is the best representation of your work that's going to make the best impression. And know that the judging committee is going to listen to your music in the order that you uploaded it. It may not sound important, but you want to impress the judges. If there's anything shaky about one of your two tracks, even if it's a nitpicky thing, you have to decide, do we want to put that first or do we want to put it second? And you can make an argument either way. I think there are times where we've listened to a slow song and it's good. And then the next track is a fast song and we're like, oh man, they upped their game. Another version is there's a fast track first and a slow track second, and we're like, oh, they've got some variety. So you decide as a performer and as a band what story you want to tell with those two tracks, okay? And then know that you're making an impression. And I would say they should be a little bit different. If you are an artist who doesn't play the same kind of music 100% of the time, show us some variety in those two tracks. You could be a great band, but if it's two slow tracks, we're basing the application on those two tracks. And so you're telling us this is what we're going to bring to the festival. What we want to see, what any festival wants to see, is what are we going to get if we agree to bring you? What are you going to give our audiences? What are we going to love? And it should be some great music and a little bit of variety is my personal suggestion. Now, Kevin, did you have any other notes on that as far as like you've been a judge for a long time in the pre-selection process? Like, what do you think people should be thinking about with the music here?
I think with that first song, you really want to make a strong first impression, whatever that means to you. So if you have some sort of unique intro to a song or something that comes out swinging in a cool way, that can be very effective. And then, especially for that second song, make sure that that's not a massive dip in quality. You want to make sure your two songs are about the same level so that we're not disappointed by that second one as well. And then let me talk about the live track thing too. So this is new this year of us requiring at least one representation of your live performance. This is kind of just because the level of bands applying is so high nowadays where sometimes the studio tracks are like just so good that we are not sure if you can reach that level live or not, especially if it's very heavily produced, if that's part of your style. So for the two main tracks, those should be your best possible tracks no matter what. So those could be live, those could be studio, it could be one of each. That doesn't matter. Just submit your best stuff. Then you'll have the option to upload a third track that is live. So, and that can be a duplicate. So if you have like a studio recording of a song, you can submit the same song live. And the live recording as well, we just want to get a sense of you being able to play in a live environment. So it does not need to be fancy at all. Like, honestly, a phone recording is totally acceptable. We don't want to make you do extra work for this. It should be very, like, don't overthink that live submission. And then lastly, the important thing is your two main music submissions. Keep in mind that we do use those for social media purposes as well. Nick puts together a really cool sampler for every night of the preliminary concerts, showing like a little snippet of every band's music. So just, make sure that the tracks that you submit are things that you're okay with being released. If you do have, like, let's say you're in progress on an album and you don't want to have us post something, then just let us know ahead of time so we don't do that.
All right, so then basically you'll give us the song title for your first track. If it's an original, select yes. If it is not, just tell us who the artist is. And then this, when we export all this data, it will rename your files to indicate to the judges if it's a cover or an original and who the cover's by. In the interest of time, I'll just do yes. You'll hit upload, and then you're going to give us, I'm just going to select a random file here, your actual first song. And this has to be a WAV and MP3, basically has to be in an audio or video format. We prefer audio because that's all the judges are going to, they're going to be listening to your music, not watching you play. Same thing with song 2. I'm going to hit upload music sample 2. I'll select the file and upload it. This is that live performance URL, just copy and paste. It could be a link to a direct video. It could be a link to your page if you're okay with us picking and choosing. Otherwise, you have control over what live thing you want us to spot check. There's a note here too, just as we've grown, the performances in Highland Park are city sponsored. And so this really needs to be a radio friendly version. If you've got music with swearing or other themes that might not be appropriate for, a plaza with little kids running around, it's fine if you submit that as an example of your work. Just take a minute to explain how you're aware that you wouldn't be able to do that at our event. You'd either have to, change the lyrics because of swearing or adjust the themes, or you wouldn't play this song at our festival, but you wanted to submit it because you love it, and we're going to love it too. But we just need to know that you're aware that we have restrictions because it's a city-sponsored event. And there's some other things too that we'll chat about later. We just need confirmation from you that you are aware of this rule. Next is a stage plot and an input list. And the input list is new this year. Kevin, could you just quickly give people an idea of what is a stage plot? What is an input list? What happens if you don't have an input list? And why do we need it? Why are we and other festivals asking for this?
Sure. So basically the point of the stage plot and input list is so that our audio engineers are prepared ahead of time to be able to make you sound good. Stage plot should be a bird's eye diagram of how you set up your stage, which instruments you use, and which microphones you need. The microphones is especially important because we may not know how many background vocalists you have or how many instruments, for example, need to be specifically mic'd up. For that stage plot, just make sure it's as clear as possible. There are a lot of good stage plot generators you can find online if you just search up like stage plot diagram generator. Those are good. If you draw it, just make sure it's legible. So input list is kind of the part 2 to your stage plot, which is it's telling us which instruments you have and what needs to be mic'd up. So that would just be a list of every single band member and instrument in your band, and then what the situation is for that. So like, let's say your guitarist is playing electric and acoustic. Electric, you would say, okay, band member 1, electric guitar, amp has a DI on it. So we'll know to use the DI from your amp. And then guitar 2, acoustic guitar needs a microphone, for example. Just basically giving us that information of everything that needs to be mic'd and how you would like our audio engineers to do that.
And if you need a little more assistance with this, like Google's great. There is a link here that you can click on that will take you to
So you want to look like a professional, a sound
really nifty video, which is humorous and also very informative, that will reiterate what Kevin just said. And the other thing too is don't freak out if you don't have an input list. It's okay. And the guy in the video even says you don't have to know about microphones. You can be extremely specific and say I want exactly this mic. Now we may or may not be able to accommodate, but that's not a bad thing because we'll have something equivalent. You could also just say I need a vocal mic. I need a mic for my guitar. And our audio engineers will give you what you need. The main thing about why this is important, there's actually 2 things. The first one is just it implies that you are professionals and you treat your work seriously. That says a lot about what we're going to get when you show up. But the other thing too is at our preliminary rounds, man, we pack a lot of music into a short period of time. And at the grand finale, we pack even more music into a longer period of time. And our changeovers are incredibly fast. We have 5-minute changeovers between sets at our preliminary rounds. Okay, if you've never been to Bitter Jester, let that sink in. We have a 5-minute changeover between our sets at the preliminary rounds. Now that's because we have 2 performance areas. So while one band is playing, the other band is setting up, but that helps us save time. And if our audio engineers are having conversations with you and trying to figure out, or if you show up with a bunch of stuff that wasn't on your stage plot, it throws us off. And incrementally, that will make the night run long. And that's bad for the festival. It's incredibly rude to the performers that are playing after you who are prepared. And so this is just the first indication of like, okay, this band has their stuff together. Now, if you're a solo performer, Kevin and I joke that someday we're going to publish a book of all the hilarious Stage plots we've gotten from solo performers, which 9 out of 10 times is just a stick figure of a person playing guitar, but they managed to do it in funny ways. Like, it's fine. I get it. Have fun with it if you're a solo performer, because it really isn't a ton of information you need to convey, and you might get published in the Bitter Jester stage plot hilarity book that will come out at some point in the future. If you need a stage plot, you can say yes, and then click here. This is our link to our sort of template stage plot. You could then fill this out. It's best, again, to do this on a computer, because if you do it on your phone, you're going to be stuck using your finger, and it just looks sloppy, and it is not easy to read. So again, just consider that this is part of your application. When we are splitting hairs, we're going to go with the most professional presentation. You would then click here to upload. I'm just going to use a random logo here, upload your stage plot. Any info or tech requests for our audio engineers, you can be as detailed as you want in here. You can ask questions. You can say, hey, I really need this. I don't know how to do this. This is just basically your direct line to our audio crew to make you sound as good as possible and make you feel as comfortable as you possibly can be when you're performing. Then you're going to upload, I'll use the same image here just randomly. This is where you're going to upload one or preferably a bunch of pictures of your band. This is what we will use to market you. So send us your best pictures. It's okay if all you have is a cell phone picture where you're kind of goofing around. Professional's the key, because the photo of you looking like a band means that you're probably going to act and sound like a band. The photo of you that's out of focus and you're just sort of like screwing around, it's not the kind of thing that I would send off to media, for example, because it doesn't look like the music coming from that group is going to be great. Now, you can be creative for sure. Just make sure it's a good picture. High resolution, just you can Google what that means. It just means that it's able to be printed. If you have a logo, upload it. If not, hit no. And then again, just if there's other festivals or music teachers that you think we should reach out to about our event, fill that out here. Last page gives you a link to look at our complete agreement, which has all the explanation of what the festival is and what you are agreeing to, which is basically just like a code of conduct. It also lists all the things we are agreeing to and all the things we will be providing. There's, again, a little reminder of the FAQ if you click on that. And then, we just ask that you please download the agreement and forward it to your bandmates so that they also know that by applying, you have said that you have shared this information with them and they are also all agreeing to it, just so that there's no issues come performance time. Basically, you're going to hit yes to, if accepted as a showcase or competition act, a representative from my band must respond to the acceptance email within 48 hours. Or we, the festival, are going to assume you're not interested. And this is just because we got a lot of people on a long wait list who will respond within an hour. I think 48 hours is reasonable for you to kind of figure out if you can make this happen. And if you're traveling, I know it's complicated. If you need an extension, just ask for it, okay? If you don't communicate with us, we assume that you aren't interested. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time chasing you to say, hey, did you get the email? Hey, did you get the email? I assume you're going to get the email if the email address that you sent is accurate. And if you're concerned because you didn't get an email from us, again, reach out and ask, or check your spam, or do both. DM us on Instagram, email the festival. There's numerous ways you can contact us. But I promise you, if you don't get a confirmation that your submission was received, it probably wasn't. And if you don't hear from us by the last day that we say we're going to be announcing bands that's in the calendar, then we either sent an email and it bounced back, or we haven't gotten to it, but it's okay to ask. And similarly, if you don't get in, you will also get an email. So if you haven't heard from us, it means we're still in the process of deciding, or something went awry with, the email communication. But we make a commitment to respond to every single band that enters so that you will know if you got in or if you did not get in. Secondly, very important, in order to compete, your band, or if you're a solo artist, you agree to hold Saturday, June 28th open on your calendar until wildcards are announced the week of June 16th. Nothing is more awful than announcing a wildcard, and we spend days deciding who of the 20 artists that didn't win their preliminaries get picked as one of the 4 coveted wildcard competition slots. And there have been a couple of times over the last 20 years where we have announced a wildcard and they're either not interested, or usually they're just not available, and they're bummed. But like, it's a waste of our resources and stuff. So if you cannot play on the 28th, that's fine. You can say, understood, my band is not available on June 28th. We'd like to be considered as a showcase. And that means you could play on one of the prelims, but you won't be at the finale because you couldn't be. So you won't be in the competition. And again, if this changes, if you say, yeah, we're available on the 28th, and then something like an accident happens or a great opportunity comes up, totally fine. Just please let us know as soon as you possibly can. Lastly, you're going to commit your age. You are going to sign on the dotted line. You will write your first and last name, and then you'll select either the application fee for a band or for a solo artist. It's $50 for a band. It's $35 for a solo artist, and there's a $2 just processing fee to cover the credit card processing because we're a lowly nonprofit. These fees will go up by $10 after the early application deadline, which is March 1st. And then the final deadline is April 15th. Last but not least, before you submit, check out our albums. They look really cool. They sound awesome. The first album is available on Spotify. The second will be soon. And the third is being mixed as we speak. You can also purchase an album. They are great. They're $35 each. And the proceeds all go to our nonprofit so we can run this incredible festival and keep producing albums. So yeah, that is the application deep dive.
So the most important stuff that helps you isolate yourself from other applications is being sincere and genuine when you're writing your bios or writing your application questions and things that make you stand out. Like if you write, "We like music," great. We're very happy for you. Everyone that's applying likes music. But if there's a specific reason that your band started, so if there's a specific reason you found our events more interesting than other events, all that kind of stuff helps us get a better picture, helps us relate to you, and that stuff sticks in the minds of people that are judging your application. Also, works that way for colleges. Find ways to make yourself stand out. That works in your music, that works in your application. The more you can do to paint the best picture of yourself and how you're a unique band and we should accept you is the best way to stand out.
And just keep in mind also anything that you write in the application, we may use that as well for announcing your band on stage or possibly for social media purposes, especially like the part of the application asking for fun facts and accolades. Those are some of the things that we use to announce your band as you come on stage. So just keep that in mind and try not to treat anything as a throwaway because if you write something interesting, then we can talk about it and it will make you look better.
These next points are just things to keep in mind too. Understand that you're competing in this application process for a spot with your entire application, and that your competition, who also wants a spot, cares and wants to get in just as much, if not more than you do. So you really need to outshine the other people with your written stuff and tell your story. There have been numerous times again where we've been splitting hairs over these bands are great. How do we decide? And there's just a really compelling moment or a compelling aspect to a band's story or their struggles or the fact that they don't have performance opportunities. They've never been able to record their music, whatever it might be. Tell us your story. If you can get the selection panel to talk about both your music and your band, you will be memorable. And being memorable is really, really important when there's 100 people that are competing for 25 spots. And then, tag the festival, the organization, social media posts, be supportive. A lot of people apply, they don't get in, they still come to the shows. Like I said, there's great networking and engagement opportunities going on. Take advantage of that. And then proofread your application. Like I said, spelling matters. Again, if this band appreciates details and pays attention to things, they're probably going to be that way in person, and we appreciate that. And above all else, like Michael said, be genuine and be authentic in what you do. Kevin kind of covered this. So these are just some bullet points. Submit your 2 best songs. We suggest but don't require that one's mixed and one's a good live track, but you have the opportunity to share the live tracks as a link, which is fine. As a reminder, feel free to submit material that may not be G-rated, but understand that when you perform it, you have to do the clean version. And if you have swearing, for example, just mention how you adjust your material. And then also content has to be thematically G-rated. Be mindful of the city of Highland Park and its recent past. If you are not aware, Google it. There was a tragedy on the 4th of July in 2022 at our concert venue. So be aware of the sensitivities that might exist in town and just, adjust your set accordingly. We'll go over that in more detail during the orientation. Okay, the part everybody's been waiting for. The bad bio versus the good bio. These are some examples of poorly written bios. So, for example, these are all fictional. These are not real bios that people submitted. I've highlighted in red things that are not great for a bio. Now, this is not egregious, but you've got 50 words to convince an audience to come and hear your music. And these are bios that once you've written them for our festival, you can copy and paste them into any application, right? The reason why I've highlighted this, our group consists of Jack Jones, singer, Emma Bort, guitarist, Sarah Major, trumpet, Ted Smith, harmonica, and Greg Gregerson on drums. What does that tell the audience about why they should come hear your music? Unless you're playing with super famous, well-known musicians that are going to draw a crowd, I would argue this is kind of irrelevant. Stick to your gut, and if you really want to promote your musicians, that's fine. But as a consumer of music, I'm not gonna like this doesn't draw me out to come hear your music. It is basically, in my opinion, a waste of words. All of us love the adrenaline that the stage and crowd provide, love to rock out and have fun, and can't wait to perform. That sounds like a young band that doesn't have a lot of performance experience. And I would argue that there are probably very few musicians who don't love the adrenaline of performing. What does this tell us that's different than any other band in history, right? Take the time to explain your music and why people should come and hear you. This is one that I love. This is based on some submissions we've gotten over the years. Just, it's like we're known for destroying venues. I get it. And it's like punk music, sure, but like no venue wants you to destroy the venue. Probably not great to include that. Things like forever and music with an X. And also, please do not write in all caps for your bio. Like it's just, I have to rewrite it. And this just irritates me. And if you are irritating the people who are judging your music, they're not listening to your music. They're talking about how irritated they are because you wrote a stupid bio. And then this one is this is one single sentence basically, and it's loaded with misspellings. I can barely get through stuff like that because it's just unprofessional. Now, on the flip side, here's an example again of some fictional, well-written bios. Three-time Michigan State Fair winners tells us that you're successful. Rock reggae quartet, boom, I know exactly what I'm getting when I hear you. Where you're from, they combined this musician and this musician to create something new. And then at the end, every Fluff Jam show is bound to be a new and exciting experience. Like that's intriguing. It's better than these are our people, these are our instruments. We get adrenaline when we play. Example two, metal band based out of Crumb Cake, Kentucky. We know what you are and where you're from right away. Kentucky band is like, I can't think of a Kentucky band. Like I want to come and hear that. They've performed everywhere from airplane hangars, backyard barbecues and basements to universities, music festivals and street fairs. Okay, they're experienced. They've got some credibility. They know the ropes and clearly people want to hear them play. So maybe I want to come hear them play. They're comparable to these artists, but it's a unique blend of metal in all of its forms. I've never heard that before. That's very cool. And then their creative originals and cleverly crafted covers tells me what I'm in store for. And you're also telling the festival what they're going to get if they bring you on board. Example C, short and to the point. Again, who they are, solo indie Americana performer, and they prefer performing just an acoustic guitar and their voice, playing music in an intimate way that truly allows you to just sit back and listen. I just find this to be intriguing. So think about what's different about bad bios and good bios and know that, again, this is both promotional material that we want to be able to copy and paste without editing. So you are saving us time and you're trying to convince the festival that you were the coolest thing ever and then convince the audience that they should come out and hear you. Now, the statement is where you're talking directly to the festival about why you want to participate. Less than impressive statement examples. Stephanie's looking to play her original music in front of as many people as she can. Again, so is everybody else. And this sounds like Stephanie's mom wrote that for her, which we want our musicians to do this work on their own. Again, all caps, please don't do it. To make ourselves heard and to hear others, we love playing music and being heard. We see Bitter Jester as an opportunity to get more exposure and meet more people. It's just kind of flat and boring and uncompelling. And this is an example of a statement that, all things being equal, could bump you into the not this year category or bump you down to showcase. And then example C, we'd like to participate because we love playing music live and seeing people have a good time. It's our favorite thing to do, and we hope we can make an impression on those seeing us live. It's repetitive. It is written in the third person, I'll give you that, but it's just kind of generic. And again, you want to stand out. Here are some impressive statement examples. So we've played a few shows locally, and we're looking to network with other musicians and gain more exposure. We're currently well known in our region, but would love to expand our audience outside of Iowa. Plus, gaining experience from judges who actually know what they're talking about, even if we disagree, would be great. And we put on one hell of a live show. It's authentic, it's genuine. It tells me that they haven't had opportunities to perform out of their state. They want to expand. They're interested in networking. They're open to disagreement from judges. They just want to be there. And by the way, we're going to benefit because they put on a great show. That's a really, really good statement. Example B, we're always looking to challenge ourselves as musicians and are always seeking out new opportunities to inspire other people. Being two young women in music, we often aren't taken as seriously as others, which can be frustrating. We'd love an opportunity to prove our talent as musicians. I love this bio because, again, all things being equal, this is a group that maybe doesn't have opportunities or has faced hardship. And also, the fact is, we get a lot of submissions from all male bands, and we want to have a really eclectic group of music. And you've got a great group of all male bands and like a really standout female duet. It's going to make an impression, and this bio backs that up. And then lastly, our band participated last year, and it was such an amazing experience. Several of us went to see every Friday concert, and it was wonderful to hear and hang out with so many talented musicians. The feedback we got from the judges after each round genuinely made us think and helped us grow as a band. We focused a lot of it into our rehearsals. We hope to be able to showcase our growth this year and continue the evolution of our sound. Now, I'll admit that's a bit of pandering, but it's genuine. And it makes sense because this is at the core of what we're all about. And if you can genuinely say, hey, we came, we were a showcase, we'd love to compete, or like we didn't get in, but like we went to the event and we had a good time, we think we've gotten better and we hope you agree. Like just be authentic and you're going to make an impression.
So, as Nick said a couple times throughout the course of this meeting, if you're not accepted, please, 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 if you're interested, reach out to get more information. Yeah, that's the second bullet point. Ask questions, be respectful. There's a lot of people, and you can't assume that your band is everything in a bag of chips. So please trust the process that we have professionals, professional educators, professional musicians, professional advertisement, music business people listening and thoroughly annotating everything. Some applications are a multi-year process. It's about growth. There's a lot of bands who we've said, even on here, that have grown from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. And it takes that 3-year process of our feedback and them growing and them maturing as musicians to really be accepted. I remember when my band applied. If my band were to apply when I was in high school and college this year, I think we would have been a showcase for the first 2 years if we were to even make the festival. So I think the amount of talent, the amount of hard work, the amount of press that is this festival now really lends itself to the upcoming professional level of bands. So when you reapply, show that growth, show how much you care about it if it's something that's really important to you. And then lastly, if you don't get accepted, come hang out. There's so much talent that you'll see and you'll learn, and you can ask questions and you can introduce yourself. And we have future internship opportunities for you if you don't get accepted as a competitive band. We have music interns, we have social media interns, we have general interns for the events. So if that's something that is interesting to you, even if you don't get in, there are several opportunities to get involved and help and be a part of the process.
Yeah, and it's a great networking opportunity. In terms of how you can help Bitter Jester, add the dates of the festival to your calendars, including the dates of when announcements will be and the dates you indicated you'd be available. And if those change, let us know. Again, write the dates down in your calendar, please. And then share the dates you say you'll be available to perform with your bandmates and with their parents as well. Mostly scheduling conflicts come because the fifth person in the band never knew that their bandmate even applied them to a festival. And it just throws things out of whack and it slows down our ability to make announcements of the lineup. Basically, just keep our best interests in mind as well and communicate, communicate, communicate. If your availability changes, let us know ASAP. Should you be accepted, try to be flexible when it comes time to actually schedule your appearance in the festival. You're great and you are special and important. We are trying to juggle 40 great, special, and important artists, and it is very, very difficult to rearrange everything. There can be sometimes a scheduling change that blows up the entire schedule. And it's not just, okay, we'll put you in on a different date. There are exactly 6 bands that compete every night. Doesn't make sense to have 8 bands compete one night and 4 bands compete another night. It throws things out of whack. So if you're not available, it is a domino effect. So again, just keep that in mind. Help spread the word about the festival. Post on social media that you applied. I love seeing posts when bands are like, we applied to Bitter Jester. And again, even if they don't get in, showing that kind of, support early on makes an impression for later. Tell your music teachers, tell your friends, your coworkers about the event, and not just the applications, but the concerts too. They are really good shows. Like, they are really good shows. Come out to the shows, tag us on social media when you do. And then our Instagram and Facebook are right there. And again, we'll be sharing this with everybody later. To wrap things up, in addition to our judges, we have 4 really great industry advisors, Heyman, Lynn, Andres, and Rob, all kind of field different aspects. Heyman is someone who you will meet. It's impossible not to meet Heyman if you are performing in the festival. Carol's nodding her head. He is fantastic. He is an artist manager. He manages a lot of American Idol artists and other really successful performers, but he's a mensch. He's very gregarious. He's very giving of his time. He will help you, and he does it because he cares about this event. And most importantly, he cares about the careers of young musicians because, in addition to it being his lifeblood that there be a music industry, he loves music. He loves helping people. He's just a great dude. And he's probably the single biggest advisor that we have in terms of interfacing with you as musicians. Our contact information is included. Kevin, Michael, Heyman. I check the music email along with other people for production questions. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you.
Folks, if you don't have questions, feel free to head on out. Thank you so much for your time. If you do have questions, the team will stick around for a little bit, but thank you so much for being here with us. I'll
Okay.
answer a couple really quick just to get it started. Ace Black asks about the internship opportunities and when we can find information on that. We'll post those as they go live on the Instagram. So the easiest way to follow is follow the Instagram pages, follow and check the website often, but Instagram's always the place to check when those things will get published.
Yeah, and Christy also said that if you are interested in, like, maybe you can't commit to an internship, which would be the requirement is, at least the 5 concerts. There might be some prep work as well. We gladly take volunteers. There have been instances too where like performers don't get in, they come and they're just like, I just want to be here and help out. And like volunteering, again, great way to meet the team. And the biggest thing is if you don't get into the festival, when you hear the competition that does, it usually is like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I know why. Or if you feel like, oh man, we could have competed, we were better than that band, then use that fire and reapply. But you can also have those conversations in real time with us, when appropriate. So there's volunteer opportunities in addition to fully fleshed out internships. And Christy's going to send you her email.
Bryce asks, are there ways to find a list of previous contestants? Everything is on our website from previous competitions, at least for the finale for sure. If you want to go down into the depths of our Instagram pages, we do promote every single band. So you can always just scroll into the depths of the archives. But I'm also sure if you click through the website, you can find pictures, you can find events.
Yeah, I know we've got our full lineup from 2024 and 2023, and then all the winners from other years. And if you're curious too, you can email and ask. Sierra has a question.
Yeah, so I had a question about the part where you enter band member information. So
Mhm.
I'm a solo artist, but I play with a backing band, but it's not always like the same group of people. It just depends. So can I just put in mine and not the backing band information because I don't know who it'll be?
Yeah, and I think that the most important, so yeah, yes, the answer is yes. Submit as a solo performer, and then there's a part in the application where it says, and anything else you want to share, or if you miss that, you could put it under the tech requests. Just if there's basically put a note in one of the text blocks, and you can speak directly to us. I think the most important thing, and Kevin will back me up on this, is we just want to make sure that if you're submitting tracks that are performers that may, and it sounds like probably won't, be with you at the festival. So just reassure us that, hey, I know like these tracks were this band, all the musicians I work with are at this caliber, and you can rest assured that like this is the music you're going to get. I just don't have a recording of these specific people, so I'm leaving them off, and I don't know their schedules, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. Just be transparent about it, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Holy Garcia family, did you release the podcast from last year? We're excited that it's currently being edited as we speak and being finalized to get
Yeah,
published.
so Peter Sagal made a donation to the festival specifically to help us produce the podcast. So thank you to NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me's Peter Sagal for that. And I just met today. I was late to this to our prep session for this because I just had lunch with the audio engineers from Gremlin, and it's actually a former competitor who's going to be doing the editing, and then the co-owner of the company as well, who's one of our judges. He judged our finale last year. And I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a combination of the interviews that you all did with Vlad. It'll be Michael's verbal commentary, the music from the festival, behind the scenes stories. And then we're also going to be including little snippets of the judges' deliberations so that performers can actually hear some of what goes on in that deliberation room to sort of pull back the cover a bit on that. And the goal is to design the episodes as sort of like a reality show where you kind of, the information's out there. They're going to be coming out a year after the festival, so it's not like it's a secret who won, but each episode will build up to the winner that night. Those 4 episodes will build up to the wildcard announcement, and then there'll be an episode at the grand finale, which is a reboot, and we have those 8 bands that are competing, intercut with, interviews and the judges' deliberation. And at the end, we reveal the winner. We play some music from them, and then there'll be sort of like a recap episode where it's sort of like a where are they now kind of thing.
Talked about the podcast a little bit. Daniel Hernandez, I was just finishing typing, but I'll just stop typing. You are allowed to submit with several bands if you are interested. Make sure that all the bands fit into the guidelines of the festival, and it'll take separate applications for each band. It doesn't hurt or help you to be in several bands, aside from if both of your bands get in, you personally have a higher chance of making it to the finale, I suppose. We've had individuals who perform with several bands. Bands do have the ability to sell merch at the events. Several bands have tables and booths will give you a space for you to place your stuff all the way throughout the concert.
Yeah, if you have table to bring, it's helpful to bring your own table. There's always space. We can help to a limited degree. We can't provide tables for everybody, but yes.
Michael Amberg.
I was curious as to how long set lists are.
Yeah,
The
good.
set lists for the preliminary rounds, so the first 4 events is around 25 minutes. It is a soft timeline. And then for the finale, we do a strict 30 minutes and we time you down to the second for points, just to keep it interesting. So 25 minutes for the first round. And then if you make it into the finale, it's 30.
The 25 is just a be respectful. It could be 20, could be 23, could be 26. But again, we just have a 5-minute changeover. So 25 is sort of the max. But you won't get dinged on points unless you play for 40 minutes. And in the finale, the reason why we have a strict time limit is partly because of the origin of this event was we always built up to the fireworks, and the fireworks went off at exactly 9:35. Exactly. So we were the event that would do the countdown to the fireworks. And so it had to be run like a live television broadcast. And that's what I do for a living. I do TV and film production for a living. So I am like used to running a schedule, and I run a very tight ship, and we have an incredibly well-oiled machine. These days, it's less about when the concert ends and more about preparation. It adds an extra layer of complication, I will admit, to the bands who are coming to the finale to literally have to time out a 30-minute set in a live environment, including your transitions. But we've heard numerous stories from bands that go to festivals where like they end right when they say they're going to, and the festival's like, thank you, that's amazing. They also know what to do to adjust if something goes wrong. They know when to vamp. You can get up there and like, you can play out your last chord while you're looking at the clock. Like that's okay. It's just a great way to rehearse, and it makes the performances better. We'll go into this more in the orientation meeting for bands that get accepted when we onboard them. At the finale, you've got a 30-second window. So if you hit between 29:45 and 30 minutes and 15 seconds, you're in the clear. So you've got a 30-second window, which is the length of a television commercial. You should be fine if you're practiced. If you're 15 seconds above or below that, for every 15 seconds, you will lose 1 single point, not 1 point per judge, and the judges don't know about that. So the judges just hear your music. We do the calculation. We've got 3 different people who are keeping track of time. We go with the most favorable time for the band. We're not about penalizing you. It's just a way to add a layer of complexity because by the time the bands make the finale, they're all so good that sometimes it's down to a point or two between the top bands. So this is just a way to help the judges make their decision.
And Bryce had another question about whether the preliminary and finale sets need to be completely different. They do not. So that could be overlapping a ton of songs if you need to. Like basically, just the philosophy is play the best that you can for both of those events. But yeah, it'll be a separate judging panel on the finale as well.
And obviously, a 20 to 25-minute set and a 30-minute set means you're going to have one or two or maybe three songs that you have to add anyway. You might want to swap something out. Michael does verbal feedback during the preliminary rounds where he sits with another music educator and in real time is talking to your band, and you'll get this recording afterwards. So in addition to all the scoring feedback on paper and all the charts and graphs, and we data nerd it out and geek out on it, you'll get all this valuable data. You'll get all this written information from our judges. You'll get all your numerical scores, and then you'll have Michael in real time giving you visceral feedback where you will hear yourself performing, and Michael is like, oh, like geeking out over something he heard, or being like, oh, like, and he interrupts himself because it's live in the moment. He's like, oh, that moment right there, that note. And a lot of what he will talk about consistently with the bands is the running order. And so sometimes it's as simple as, hey, man, if you just put your third song first, put your second song at the end, like your set is totally different. And if you make it to the finale, that could be the thing that makes the difference. And so you can bring the same set, but maybe rearrange, tell a different story, insert a song here, give us some highs and some lows, but you'll get guidance along the way on that. And a lot of that comes from the verbal commentary that we'll provide you with. And certainly also reaching out to Heyman, reaching out to Kevin, reaching out to Michael, and being like, we know we didn't win. We might get wild card. What suggestions would you have for us to improve our set if we make it? We're gonna answer those questions. We're happy to. Yeah, any other questions from people here?
I was going to say thank you all for being here. It's
Yeah.
great to ask questions and see new faces and see old faces. So looking forward to a great season.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Applications are open until April 15th, and then the hard work for us really begins. So, yeah, enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks for sticking with us for so long. Now I have to figure out how to stop the recording.